Hey guys, it's me, Mr. G again. I'm here in the city doing a tire and wheel swap on this Volkswagen GTI. What I wanted to do is take you through the steps, how we would jack up the vehicle and actually take the wheels and tires off and swap on some other ones. So we want to take a look at some of these parts right here. So we're going to need a jack for this. We're going to need some tools, X-wrench, probably some sort of drill, wheel chocks, so that we can do this. All right, so I'd like you to kind of come through with me. So let's get started. All right, so as you go to jack up the vehicle, what you want to look for are places where you can jack. Some cars have like a centralized, here you can see me, some cars have a centralized jacking point so that the whole side of the car goes up at the same time. But unfortunately, this car right here doesn't have that. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift this on the pinch welds. And what's nice is that when you take a look, all right here, there's a little mark. You may not be able to see it, but that's an arrow saying that right here is an adequate location to lift. It looks like there's a pinch weld right there. So we can actually see the little arrow right there. It's pretty neat. And then we can jack right on that point. And there's one in the back, and then there's one up front. Now, you're going to want to use some sort of wheel chocks to chock the tires so that the car doesn't roll. We don't want the car to roll around or anything like that, because that would be bad. So what we want to do is we want to chock the tires so that the car doesn't roll anywhere. And what you can do is you can put, you know, the wheel chock right here, and then that's pretty good. And then you can put one right there if you want. Depends on where you want to lift. Since we're going to be lifting up this side of the vehicle, we may want to put these wheel chocks on the opposite side to help balance the car. Okay, now what we've done is we've taken our jack and we've put it right on that pinch weld. And then what we can do with a couple of, you know, pulls on the arm, we can actually start lifting up this car so that we can take off this wheel. Now, before we get too carried away, what I like to do when the car is still sitting on the ground, what we use is this special X-wrench right here. And what this X-wrench does is that since the car is sitting on the ground, we can use the car's weight to help hold the car in place while we loosen these nuts. And it just makes things a little bit easier. So we'll do that before we physically lift the car up off the ground. I take this tire, put it underneath, so that if anything happens with the jack, it would fall on the tire and wheel. Okay, so now that we got this off, let's take a look here. This is a real rusty brake rotor. Here's our hub right there. This is our caliper. Okay, and as you can see, the caliper is on both sides. There's brake pads that are inside. See the brake pad right there? There's a brake pad right there. All right, if we kind of look inside there, you can kind of see some things that are going on. This right here, that red item right here, that's part of the sway bar. Right here is a tie rod that connects for your steering. This pulls left and right to allow you to steer your car. This over here is might be a boot that goes to the transmission. This is your actual drive shaft, the axle that goes here, because this is a front wheel drive vehicle. Here's your strut. So this is the shock part, and then up here is the spring. Right there, that's our spring. Okay. Now that we have the wheel back on, what we want to do is we want to skip every other lug nut as we go around. You never want to tighten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What you do is you skip. So you do this one, then you do this one, then you do this one, then you do this one. Then you end with this, and you make sure that they're all tight. And that's it. Then you carefully, very carefully, and one side is done. What we're going to do with this vehicle after all this is we would take a torque wrench and then we would torque each lug nut down to the specific torque that we would need before we would drive it down the road. Okay, two sides are now done. Okay, and what we would do is we would repeat the same thing on the other side. You just use an X wrench to break it all loose, and then you jack up the car, zip off the bolts by using an X wrench or a pneumatic air gun, and then you just put on the new wheel, tighten the bolts back down, again using that star pattern from here, and then here, then here, then there, and then you finish with that one. And then when you're all done, you torque it with a torque wrench to make sure that it's all torqued to spec. And as my sister demonstrates how to remove it, you can see by the back, look at this suspension setup. You have your coil spring. That red bar back there is your sway bar for the back. This right here is your shock. And then of course you have your disc brakes. And don't worry about this rust, that's just because this car is sitting and it just gets rusty when you don't use it. Alright? There's a gas tank right there, look at that. This right here is your e-brake cable, that's e-brake right there. And then of course there's your caliper for the rear.